right, hey there. How you doing today? All right, guys. Sam here with you on Thursday, November 15th, and as it's a Thursday, we're looking at traditional assets today. So first up, by request. All right, we always do these by the request of our members. Well, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes we'll take requests on Twitter as well, but typically we'll poll the members, let them decide what they'd like to see getting analyzed here. And first up is by request was Amazon. So Amazon's kind of interesting here. Now I've got it up on the 3-day chart, and I've got a little work on it already. We looked at Amazon not too long ago. So the thing with this, right? So this is just parabolic, right? So how do you deal with that? Well, even here on a 3-day chart, so given the size, you want to call that the third, of course, right? So that's pretty. I don't know what else you can look at that has that kind of move. Maybe Bitcoin 2017. That's just parabolic, right? But now we're starting the correction of it. So it's I lean into this. So well, let me back up. So I think from this low here, this 2016 low, when we were at, is it 2015 low here, we're at $300 and we've gone to $2,000. This is a completed 5-wave structure that I think warrants the analysis here. So let me just do it this way. So if you look back here, and we go all the way back to Amazon's history, right? We get the IPO here. Then we got a 1, and is that your 2? Oh, boy, that's mighty deep for a 2. All right, so, but you've got a clear 5-wave structure here, so it stays internal. All right, it's not a pretty looking ABC, but now we are looking at a 3-day chart. So it's, if you look at this back as to how would have been looking at it at that time. So here's the 1, 2. This is far beyond the 2618. So it's, you could probably, so do we even get a 50 here? Even if we look at from the absolute low here, if you were trying to build the case, well, maybe this is the completion of the 1. Well, look at your 2. You don't even make the 38. So there becomes no other place for a 2 because we don't get a retracement. The next thing we get is right here. So then you think, okay, maybe that's the 2. So maybe 3, 4, and 5 here. So we'd get 1 completing. That's possible here. So, but then again, you're still looking for that probability zone. So if you look here, if that were the completion, again, we're between the 23 and 38. Now, again, it's not that it's never happened before. It's just that it's such low probability. So where is your 2? Right, it becomes a struggle, right? Because then we go parabolic. So where's sorry guys, I forget to turn that off. So where's your 2? Right, it becomes a real problem. So the way I'm approaching this, I'm working off of this low and saying, well, I know I've got something that's completed here. Now, is that the absolute top? Now, shit, someone who absolutely loves Amazon, right? It's my favorite place to shop. Probably, anyone in the States here probably go, well, shit, they're worldwide. So many of you may agree with that. So you look and you go, okay, well, is it just a matter of valuation, right? Because the idea that we've got a major top here in Amazon, well, certainly it's possible. So if we did just a 50 off of this, that would put us back at 1,200. Cutting it in half, right? So I'm cutting it in half from the 2015 low because I've got something here that I can make a pretty strong case that we've got all the subdivision. We get a nice 2, 3, 4. We get everything we're looking for. Now it helps a little bit. This when you have something that's parabolic like that, it can be helpful to go to log scale where we get the compression of the higher numbers. So then it breaks a little bit better, so we can see 1, 2. Now, because of the distortion, right, it looks, you go, 3, 4. Well, certainly we don't challenge the 1. So it's a shallow 4. It's kind of a judgment call as to where you're pulling from. So if you went, so it's not that dramatically different. So if we went all the way to the absolute low and you made the assumption, let me get it right on there. You made the assumption, get it, that's close enough, that we'd be coming all the way back. So if this is a completed 5-wave structure from the IPO where it goes public, that put us back at 1,000. That's not, that's another $500 down. That may well be the case here. That this is just a dramatic extension in the 5th. So whether you're pulling from the absolute low, it's a $200 difference. right? I would defer here first. If this breaks, then knowing I can pull down. It's not too much farther. So what are we at here? There's 278 to 0. So it's a $278 difference from the absolute low than from this pivot low. Of course, the other theory being that I've got this all wrong, and this is just a big 3, and we're looking for a 4 into a 5, but I'm not ready to go there yet. So because I've got that range is narrow enough, whether I go from here, I'm going to start here because I think this 5 waves needs to correct here. So let me go down to the daily, right? That's kind of the thought process you have to work through in terms of, well, what pivot are you going to use, right? Because we've got this very clean, I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little shallow in the 4. So if I break this out here and we look working off of this pivot, well, I get a very clear 5 here. So I can work from my 2. See, look how did we do on the 4? Well, we're 23, right? So that's a sign of strength in the market. So we only make the 23 on the 4. Excuse me a sec. Sorry, back. So, and then we said then you might look, okay, well, why does it stop there? Okay, well, what else could be there? Well, length of the 1. Projected from the 4. Well, we looked at this a couple of weeks ago. Well, here's this typically where you're looking for a 3, but here's my 1618. So that's, certainly something technical here. And then you might look for some market geometry. Well, this is going to be very hard to get that to work because it's so steep. So, even if you might pay attention to that median line because the market is framing this, but you'd have to put 300, 400, 500 range on that. I did notice this. If you go to log scale, it gets a little bit easier to manage. So if you go back to log scale, let me get this. Oh, let's see, we got to go back to, let's go to our 3-day here. All right, so now that looks like something you might want to put some median lines on. So I'm just using the absolute low here, second pivot. Let me get this out of the way. Let's get right on there. All right, so original recipe, not going to help us much, but let's go to shift, see how that looks. All right, so if we pull back out here a little bit. All right, look at that. All right, so now let's get back to log scale. Well, so here's your corner pocket, right? So here's the 80% realized, right? From that corner, we get that, and then again, and then again. All right, so you can see how that median line, and then again here for the proposed 3. So it's not without its influence in the market, right? So let's get that right on there. All right, so you got to do a little trial and error here. Well, where's the 1? Well, it looks like this finishes with a diagonal, so it looks like this is 4, 5, since we do get a new high here. So this, you got to get those right on there. So look how we hit this. So corner pocket, right? It's a deep 2, but look at that. All right, so that has me thinking, okay, that's a good contender for the 3rd, as I know that we're prone to, per Andrew's median line, pardon me, Andrew's trading principle number 1, right? If this pivot holds, 80% probability of making the median line, and trading principle number 2, very often you'll see a pivot made as the market hits the median line. Right, so we got that 80% multiple times. But now pulling it off as to where we go here, well, it still seems to have some influence in the market. So again, note, I'm still in log scale, so everything distorts down here. But I certainly would pay attention to it. So let's get a line here. Yeah, maybe let's do it this way. If I think about this area here, that's where I'm likely to hit that median line. So I have to take this off and take it out of log scale so we can see it. So now look at it out of log scale, right? Does that pitchfork? You get the idea here. So it's not much help to us there. So that's where in log scale that can be helpful to us. Now let's take it out of log and let's break down what's happening here. So I'm going to go down to the daily, probably do it. All right, so let's open this up. So if that, well, I think we can agree that's some sort of a significant top. So let me pull some of this off here. All right, so what's happening in the correction, knowing that this is a contender down here? So it certainly looks like we've got a pretty clean start on our correction here, and we've had a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so 3, 4, so it's an impulse, so we get an impulse in our A wave. Now, of course, we'd be looking for the B wave relative to the length of the A wave, anywhere from the 50 to the 618. We go right into the prime zone, right where we'd expect it. So from here, clearly we've got an algo target down here, but we're not going to make the 50 if we stall here. Now we don't have to make the 50. Remember, the assumption is that we're completing something. If it's the full count from the absolute low, well, remember that's where we had that $275 difference. If we're just working from the 4 low here, so if I grab this low here, just saying, well, this is something substantial that's correcting here. Well, here's our 50. All right, so we'd have to get through the first target. So if we're going to hit here, we're going to get through the first, and maybe we come down here to second target. So we have a range here. Excuse me, and then we have a little bit of structure here, potentially a prior pivot that looks like that could be the 3 of the third. So you've got a little zone here that would attract your attention right around 1200, right? From what we get to 2050 approximately. Now, nothing says that you certainly would expect a reaction here, right? So we know we don't have to wonder. We know software kicked in there, and that they're going to stay short until they get this, or they get stopped out on the 65. So they'll stay with that target. But this second target, so we don't have. It's not perfect, right? So you're going to kind of got to wait and see. So would I be a buyer there? Absolutely not, right? So I'm shocked I'm saying that, because I couldn't be a bigger fan of Amazon, but this could clearly just be an issue of earnings and valuation. So coming down here, are we going to get this far? Well, you'd look for some other things as well. So we know we have the algo play, but I certainly wouldn't ignore some alternate price projections. So here we get the 100. That's a little closer, so I like this better now. So I'm just taking the length of the A projected from the B, 100, very common, so I get a little tighter range here. The 1272, if we're going to break this, so I've got actually a fairly fat range here. I've got the second algo target, the 50 from the 4 low. The 1272, a little prior structure. So if this is going, you might open this up and say, well, do we have enough there for some median lines? Well, it doesn't look great here, so maybe we take something like that, working that channel. So a break of that channel would not be insignificant. So if I pull this off here from our A, so reasonable candidate down here. Now you might look at that and say, well, what about the little swing here? So we've had a move here. You always tell me algos don't care about the Elliott count. Well, that's absolutely right. They don't, right? So there's swing high, swing low, but we're come to the 786. So then you got to make a judgment call. Could this be 1-2? Well, we know a 2 can go as far as the 786, and maybe that's just a 1-2, and we're going up here to new highs. Well, that doesn't fit as well. Here, let's get this off here, because of what we see coming down here. Right, so that's a nice clean 5 wave. So that just doesn't play as a corrective that looks impulsive, right? So it's clean 5, not questionable. Maybe I can squeeze. So there's a nice clean 5, and then the 50 right where we get it. Now we do have the possibility that we're going to have more complexity in the B wave. So we could have this. So the B could certainly. Let's get this one. The B could certainly come up here. That wouldn't put us outside of the range of where we'd be looking for that B. So it's not that there's not a potential rally here, but if we're going to come up and we're going to get a little more complexity in that B, all right, so the target down here doesn't change, right? So whether we draw it here and we think, oh, it's from the 50 and it's going down, whether we go from the 618, if we get this little counter trend, but even looking in here, it looks like it's already there. So if I dig in here, right, you got a nice little ABC here. So sure, we could have, this could be the A wave. Maybe we get a flat correction, but it sure does look like we've got something here that's already done. So it looks like that ABC is in, and this B potentially now is right here. So if this starts to get traction, then we know we've got it right. But we allow for that possibility, if we're not going to break this low, that we've got another kick up here. Maybe that B has to get moved over here. So you have to allow for. The first question is, let's assume I'm wrong. What else could be going on? Well, maybe this is just not done yet, right? So if you look at the symmetry is not awful there. So when we make this low, remember these are daily charts. The 18th, what do we get here? So almost 3 weeks here. Well, trading days, less than that. But that could certainly suffice as the B wave here. So let's put this down here. Let's go. get down the proper degree here. Okay, so we might have an ABC. It's hard to say, right? So right now, I would play it this way because this is enough here. The symmetry is not awful. So I would let that play here. If we break this target, well, we know where we're likely headed, right? Minimum would be here, right, for the algo target. Now, if they get through that, then that 50 will be a magnet because it's just... You'd look for some other thing. What else is there? Well, it's not uncommon to come back to the prior 3-4 on the assumption I have this right. Prior 3-4 from this swing higher. We can certainly finish this in 5 to get to this pivot up here. Now, is it the 5 or is it a larger 3? It's really hard to know. So based on what we see here, there's no reason to anticipate that we've got anything other than a move down. That annoys me. Down to this target here. So center line, maybe. Now, if we break out of this, this channel, then you'd rethink and think, okay, well, maybe we're getting more complexity in the B, and this is just the A wave of the B wave, but that target doesn't move, right? And this doesn't move, right? It's just a matter of complexity. Do we see that in the B wave? Hang on, damn. Okay, so that's what I see there. So where's the trade? You're too late to sell, too soon to be a buyer, even though, yes, we have a little internal retracement. But this three-wave structure certainly doesn't look impulsive. So what are you buying off of as relates to an Elliott pattern? All right, much as I love Amazon, there's not a buy there. I'd be waiting. So minimum target would be down here. That's 1,300. There's not a lot of help from the volume profile here. But we do have this divot down here. So here's market acceptance. So we pull this off. Here we've got decent market acceptance there. It's a little jagged here. Not terrible. So I'd be paying attention here. And there could be more complexity considering the length of that fifth. And you also could have something more complex like that. Nope, that wouldn't surprise me terribly. If we're just in the process, this could all move down lower. This could move higher. This could be done. So let me take that off. So you have the possibility that all we've done is just the 3, is it? Even though that looks quite nice here, you have the possibility that this is just 1, 2, 3, 4. We're coming down for the 5. That would put in the A, this would be the 0, and we're going to get a more complex B over here. So you've got a couple of different scenarios. All of them suggest lower prices from what we're seeing here off of that 50. So where's the trade? Well, I would tell you to wait for this, right? So if you're... So it's sort of like shorting Bitcoin. I wouldn't short Amazon. I just wouldn't do it. If I was determined to make a trade there, I'd do it with options just to reduce the risk. But here, all right, so I want to be a buyer of Amazon, not a seller. So down here, yeah, I like that just fine. So, all right, again, I always like to try and give you guys a trade if there is one, but there's just not one. Unless you want to try and trade, if this completes and you want to try and trade into the B, if this ends up being our A wave, if we get that pattern to work for us, if we get that and we come back to a B, at the very least, I'd hedge it with some options. All right, so maybe that's a whole nother subject. But so if we come down here, then coming back down here, this would be a very reasonable place to be a buyer. So anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200, if you can pick up Amazon down there, that would sure attract my interest if we get down that low. So we're sitting here at 1,500. It's not that much farther to go. Right, if we're going to get a more substantial correction in the broader market, that's a very real possibility. And even all the way, right, from the absolute low was only $275 lower. So there's opportunity if we come down here. There's going to be, so one thing we know is that there'll be some algo participation. If that's the dominant pivot down here before we go up, there'll be participation at that 50. Right? Again, doesn't mean that's where it stops, but we know that there's likely going to be the initial start of buying will likely kick in there. Dominant swing, the software will kick in there. It doesn't mean we can't get through it, but we know that's where they'll start buying, and they'll continue to buy, and here they flip. So that's pretty much everything I can offer to you there. I'm sorry I can't give you a trade. I think there's a trade that's there that could take that could be March of next year before that happens. There's just no way to know. Right? But I'd wait for it. Right? I'd want to be on the buy side of Amazon, not the sell side. Right? Feel free to disagree with me, but that's how I would play that for what that's worth. All right, guys, we got one more today. I'll be back in a little while.